Urgent, Vikings fan, look at what just happened. Nobody saw this coming, huh? But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel because we bring you daily videos with the latest your team news. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. Vikings want McCarthy as starting QB after tabling Rodgers' conversation with Never Say Never Again. AP. The Minnesota Vikings have moved forward with a roster revolving around J.J. McCarthy as their starting quarterback, and tabled consideration of Aaron Rodgers even if the door remains open at least a little. General Manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah confirmed Wednesday that the Vikings had extensive conversations about and with Rodgers, the four-time NFL MVP award winner who was recently released by the New York Jets. The plan all along has been to turn the offense over to McCarthy this season, even if the injury that erased his rookie year and set up Sam Darnold for his breakout performance was entirely unexpected. When we pooled the resources we did to draft JJ, and you go through that long process and all those things, that's the outcome we want, and that's the outcome we're headed toward, Adofo-Mensah said. But given the interest Rodgers had in joining them, the Vikings felt he was an option even at age 41 worth exploring. Coach Kevin O'Connell had a pre-existing relationship with Rodgers and spoke at length with him about where both the team and the player were at, Adofo-Mensah said. Given where we are scenario-wise, we didn't think it was the right move at this point, Adofo-Mensah said in the first public comments the Vikings have made since free agency began 2 weeks ago. One of the complications in this case is the salary cap value to the Vikings of having McCarthy on a rookie contract that would be diminished by bringing in a player such as Rodgers on a deal that would undoubtedly have to be bigger than the $10 million they paid Darnold to be the bridge last year. But if they're suddenly unsure about McCarthy's health or development later this summer, assuming Rodgers doesn't pick the Pittsburgh Steelers instead, the Vikings could also revisit this. For me to sit here and say that anything's 100 forever, that's just not the job, right? Adofo-Mensah said. We're responding to scenarios and different information as it comes, so obviously things can change. But right now, we're really happy with our room. McCarthy, the 10th overall pick in the 2024 draft, said this week on the Up and Adam show on FanDuel TV that the Vikings have not actually informed him he will be the starter. I'm happy they didn't because I try to earn it every single day, and I never want that to be given to me, McCarthy said in that interview. McCarthy also said he considers himself 100 healthy after rehabilitating from surgery to repair a torn meniscus in his right knee, which has matched the team's assessment. At every checkpoint, whether it's been the draft process or practicing until the injury, and really the offseason now, he's met the bar, Adofo-Mensah said, has exceeded our expectations at every point. Though the Vikings have not yet cleared up the picture around their depth chart at quarterback, where Brett Rypien is currently the only other one on the roster beside McCarthy, they made significant commitments to bolster several other vital positions. That started with the interior of both lines, with defensive tackles Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, and center Ryan Kelly and right guard Will Freeze. Byron Murphy was a priority, resigning at cornerback, where Isaiah Rodgers and Jeff Okudah were added to help fill voids left by departing veteran free agents. They restructured safety Harrison Smith's contract for what will be his 14th year in the league. The Vikings also resigned Aaron Jones and traded for Jordan Mason to solidify the running back position, and they added Rondale Moore to their wide receiver group. Allen, Hargrave, Kelly, Freeze, Okudah, and Moore all missed significant time to injuries last season, and Allen, Hargrave, and Kelly are all in their 30s. We're just always trying to find that value, Adofo-Mensah said. Adofo-Mensah has entered the final year of his contract and has yet to sign an extension with the Vikings, who gave one to O'Connell 2 months ago. Adofo-Mensah, however, didn't hint at any unease about the situation. I promise you I don't wake up thinking about that for 1 second, he said. I wake up thinking about how do we improve this team. Pausing this news just to say that if you want YouTube to keep recommending the latest Vikes news to you, it's very important that you leave a like on this video. Thanks. Now let's get back to the news. Are the Vikings Ryan Tannehill's perfect situation? Most of the country is glued to March Madness brackets and the improbable 161 upsets. However, NFL front offices are still focusing on the draft and free agency. The Minnesota Vikings front office was determined to help JJ. McCarthy by bolstering the offensive line and finding him a potential mentor. Passing on Aaron Rodgers, a Hall of Fame quarterback, is the clearest indication they're all in on McCarthy. Instead of turning things over to Rodgers, the Vikings decided to look elsewhere and met with Ryan Tannehill. The conversation seemed to center on what the 36-year-old veteran was looking for with his next team if he chooses to continue his career. However, he wasn't in the league last season and last played with the Tennessee Titans in 2023. Still, Tannehill would be an intriguing pickup for the Vikings. The Miami Dolphins drafted him 8th overall in 2012, and he spent his first 7 seasons with the team. Brian Flores took over as head coach of the Dolphins before the 2019 draft. A month later, they traded Tannehill to Tennessee. Whether Flores had the final say on that decision isn't clear. However, there were talks of Tannehill leaving the team before Flores arrived in Miami. Tannehill played in 88 games in Miami, completing 62. 8 of his passes for 20,434 yards, 123 TDs, and 75 interceptions. His most memorable play was the Miami Miracle in his final season with the Dolphins. Tannehill completed a 15-yard pass to Kenny Stills, who lateraled it to Devontae Parker, who instantly found Kenyon Drake. After Drake had the ball in his hands, he looked for a teammate to pass to, tucked it himself, and ran 52 yards for a touchdown. Rob Gronkowski was playing on the defensive side of the ball and seemed to have taken a bad angle on the speedy Drake. The New England Patriots tight end did not come up with the game-saving tackle, resulting in a Dolphins touchdown and a 34-33 victory. That was Tannehill's last win with the Dolphins. During the trade process, Tannehill was looking for a location where he could either be the day-one starter or in a position to fight for the starting role. However, Marcus Mariota, Tennessee's 2nd overall pick in 2015, struggled with injury issues and had yet to play an entire season. During Week 6 of the 2019 season against the Denver Broncos, the Titans benched Mariota in favor of Tannehill. In 2019, Tannehill showed he had what it took to be a perennial starter. He took the Titans to the AFC Championship game and won 2019 Comeback Player of the Year. However, he lost the starting role to Will Levis after injuring his ankle in 2023. In 67 games with the Titans, Levis completed 6 of his passes for 14,247 yards, 93 TDs, and 40 interceptions. The Titans let Tannehill test free agency after the 2023 season. No team picked him up because he has been waiting for the perfect scenario to open up. Gardner Minshew, Case Keenum, Drew Lock, and Joe Flacco are still available, and Minnesota's discussion with Tannehill appears to be at an impasse. Tannehill still wants to be a starter for a competitive franchise, while the Vikings are setting McCarthy up to be their franchise QB. Still, the Vikings might have just had enough intrigue on the veteran who sat all last season to see if he is willing to sit all of next season for the possibility of playing with Justin Jefferson and this dynamic Kevin O'Connell offense. If Minnesota and Tannehill can reach a mutual understanding, it may be perfect for the veteran quarterback. Vikings GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah discusses talks with Aaron Rodgers, J.J. McCarthy's path to starting. Aaron Rodgers is still unsigned, and despite some rumblings of a potential pairing with the Minnesota Vikings, it sounds as if that isn't going to happen. Just ask Vikings general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, who spoke plenty on the matter on Wednesday. Right now, given all of our scenario planning, we're happy with our room, and obviously we're going to talk a lot about J. McCarthy, Adofo-Mensah explained, but Brett Rypien, who's someone we brought in last offseason and we thought made a lot of great decisions, quick decision-making, processing, and better athlete than people give him credit for. Accurate passer, so we're excited about him. And we're always going to keep looking to see if we can upgrade that position, just like every other position. It's relatively standard talk from a GM, but Adofo-Mensah was pressed to elaborate on how he viewed Rodgers in relation to McCarthy last year's first-round pick who missed his rookie season due to a preseason knee injury. Would Rodgers be seen as competition or just a veteran backup? You want to solve for a lot of things, Adofo-Mensah told reporters on Wednesday. You want competition, you want ability to play if they're not the starter, all those different things. You're just trying to solve for a lot of different dynamics. I'm not going to say that specific to Aaron, just generally what you're trying to accomplish in the decision. If Rodgers were to join the Vikings, he'd complete the career path laid by Brett Favre But unlike Favre, Rodgers isn't being viewed as a franchise-saving option, not with McCarthy, whose presence convinced Minnesota to let Sam Darnold walk in free agency earlier this month on the roster. That might be enough to convince the Vikings. It isn't worth pursuing Rodgers. The 41-year-old, meanwhile, might not be interested in signing where he'd be seen as a backup, equipped with experience to step in when needed. I think we got to a place where we just said everybody was transparent, but right now we feel good about where we're going, and that's really how it ended, Adolfo said of the Vikings talks with Rodgers. It's ultimately up to him. It's hard to talk about a player who's not under contract for our team and who isn't a member of this team. It's ultimately up to him what he decides to do with his future, but that's kind of where we left it. I know Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell and him have a great relationship still. They'll still have a relationship and keep talking, but right now I'm focused on the two players that are in our room right now and my personnel process going forward. As Rodgers continues to mull his future with the team, it appears his most likely destination, the Steelers, the Vikings, are keeping their eyes trained on their 2024 first-rounder, McCarthy. They won't anoint him the starter, yet McCarthy said this week he has not been informed he's QB1, but they sure sound eager to watch him earn the job. You know, you guys all talk in terms of QB1 and all those conversations, different things like that. When we pool the resources we did to draft Jay, and you go through that long process and all those things, I can't stand up here and say that's not, Adolfo said. That's the outcome we want, and that's the outcome we're headed towards. At every checkpoint, whether it's been the draft process or practice until the injury or really the off-season now, he's met the bar, he's exceeded our expectations at every point. And so I don't have the ability to tell you what the future is, but I can tell you what I expect to be the outcome this offseason from the competition. But it's also our job to set up a quarterback room that's going to be able to meet, have great ideas, and prepare whoever it is to play, but also provide insurance in case someone needs to come in for a couple games. And that's our job as a personnel department, is to look at all the options out there and make sure we're setting ourselves up for the best case we can. Those options include the players on the roster: McCarthy, Ripien, and could involve Rodgers if expectations change. As it stands now, though, Adolfo and the Vikings seem content to proceed forward without him, and with the hope McCarthy commands the job. And now, Vikings fan, I want to hear from you. What's your opinion on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I don't know if you know this, but your opinion matters a lot for Vikes. I'll be back any moment with more Vikings news. Skål, Vikings!